In this first part of a series of videos, I will go into what I've learned about the cell phone jammers used in the South African farm attacks, where we suspect that they come from, and what it may mean for the South African landowner who is under threat. You are listening to the Charles Carroll Society. I am your host, the self-appointed bard of the American Redoubt. If you're finding us for the first time, please hit the subscriber button to ensure you don't miss any of our continuing political or homesteading coverage, and please share with like-minded patriots on all your social media accounts. Please specifically share this video with those who may be under threat in any type of issue. One of the first things we start with, anytime you have a conflict issue, we like to start with unit composition and unit deployment. We want to know what's on the field and who's on the field. It's almost like seeing what pieces are on the field. This is very important for getting anything done. Many times, in every time I speak or write, is that you've got to look past the propaganda. You've got to look past your prejudices if you're going to win any type of battles. One of the other things that we learned in our time in the military, or I learned in my time in the military, was that you have to fight the war with the tools you have. Many people wish that, oh, it's going to be 500 years from now. Oh, this is going to look like, oh, this is all going to go our way. Look at the situation as it is now, and look how you can win the conflict now with the tools you have. There are several videos and comments that document the South Africa farm attacks. Primarily, this is a lot of credit has to be given to Lauren Southern for kicking this issue into high gear. I'd like to point out that apparently not only white farmers are being attacked, nor are the farm attacks the only evil crime being committed by criminal gangs in South Africa. South Africa is one of the most violent places on the planet. Over 30 cars are stolen every day in that country, and approximately 7% of their economy is dedicated to security alone. Yet, with that facts being said, there does seem to be a level of violence and outrageous attacks. I mean, the attacks are not just robbery. I mean, children as young as 3-year-olds are being gang raped by men invading people's homes. I mean, women are being gang raped, eyes torn out, just absolutely horrid situation. The American Redoubt expertise in communication really started with John Jacob Schmidt and Radio Free Redoubt. He is the one who created the American Redoubt Radios Operator Network, or we call it AMRON. I'll put a link to AMRON in the description, which I really encourage you to take a look at. Primarily, AMRON is built around communication plans, equipment, exercise, because you cannot trust anything that you don't practice with, train as you fight type things, exercise, communicating and focusing on communicating if the primary communication is not available due to some natural disaster or actively being denied to you. When I was watching Lauren Southern's work and others' work and reading about it, it came across these things where not only were these men invading these remote homesteads with these attacks, attacking these farms and these ranches in remote areas, I saw something that triggered, obviously we have a communication background here at the American Redoubt, of a thing used of cell phone jammers. So I began to take a look at what is a cell phone jammer, what it does, and basically the ones that are apparently being used are man-packable, although you can pack them in a truck too. And what they do is they prevent radio equipment from working. And it's very important. That cell phone jammer blocks communication from a cell phone. And the way it does that, by the way, is a cell phone has to be able to send and receive to be able to get in communication. When your cell phone is constantly that signal, is because it can send and receive. It's very easy to block the reception of a signal. It's not easy to block a transmission. That's physics. No one can overcome physics. But these things can actually block a lot of other things. They can block things like low jack. They can block 802.11. They basically flood the frequency with a bunch of garbage so that the things operating in that frequency can't hear each other. So what's happening is these guys are wearing these man-pack cell phone jammers and attacking South African landowners, both black and white. The Zulu king himself said he's not going to give up his land to the EFF and the government. And what they're doing is they're blocking the transmission of these communications. Well, when reading about this and learning about this, I went across, of course, everything on the internet and read a little bit, a couple of manuals, and talked to some people. But I found some comments like this on one of the boards, and one of the guys said, he was talking about the cell phone jammers, and he said something to the effect of this: "How dumb are you? Where do you think they get these jammers from? This kind of tech is highly illegal in South Africa, and only government personnel have access to it. You think these criminals ordered it online? You think that they have an army surplus stores in South Africa? Wait, you're a libertard. You do think that. Or you don't think." That's what he said. This is the kind of propaganda and study. Again, that's just one comment. It's not just one person. I've seen a lot of it across Reddit, across almost all the different blogs that you see, a lot of different channels you see. I've seen this constantly, like these jammers are basically used as evidence that the South African government, generally the ANC, is in league with the people who are attacking. And I'm here to share something with you that you've not seen before, and it's going to be kind of surprising at the end of this. Using some online resources such as Reddit /r South Africa, I found out, guess what? These backpack high-powered mobile phone jammers cost between $3,500 and $3,900. Specifically, Reddit found that the jammer apparently uses brand CKJ, model number CKJ 1704P6B-7. This model of a high-powered backpackable cell phone jammer can jam 6 frequencies simultaneously. It can mix these frequencies, which are programmable. The options include, get this, remote alarm, 315, 433 megahertz, 920 to 965 megahertz, GPS, low jack, 4G, UHF, VHF satellite phones, SATCOM, and things like that. And they can customizable. So you can order these. Apparently, you can order these customized down to the frequency you want. I assume that they have programmable radios too. So these cell phone jammers jam cell phones, common radio bands, and walkie-talkies. You have a walkie-talkie, you want to talk to it. Your security system, those. You ever notice that people put these brake monitors on areas like little beeps that come in, but you notice they don't run a wire back. Sometimes they don't run a wire back to your control panel. Well, the reason is it's communicating over a frequency. Well, if you jam that signal when you open that door or break that window, then the alarm doesn't ring because that frequency is being jammed. It's not just cell phones it's jamming 802 and your security system. A lot of that things that are set up wireless, it just jams it. This is very important for South African landowners and American landowners in rural environments or period to understand. So I looked at some place. The place that you can get a lot of these jammers is a website called globalsources.com. Guess where that website's located at? Globalsources.com. Mainland China. That's where it's located. So you see that photo of this guy. I'll try to find a photo and put it in the video. You see that photo of the guy, and he's showing this, and people are showing this around going, look, there's cell phone jammers, and the South African government are completely involved with it. Where did that photo come from? So I was trying to figure it out, of course. You have to get through the propaganda to see where it's coming from. Guess where that photo is coming from? The South African police, almost all of them being black. And it was actually a report by the South African police showing these guys using cell phone jammers attacking someone's farm. And the South African police were sending that report to the South African ANC-dominated government saying, hey, these cell phone jammers are becoming a real problem. You need to do something about this. That's where the photo came from. They just cut that part out. They cut the photo out, but the whole document is actually a police report made up by the police to the government. When you don't really believe the hype that's out there, I find it interesting that these jammers can be found online easily from mainland China. I find it very interesting that China has a long history and an interest in dominating South Africa. I find it very interesting that mainland China was the main supplier of arms to the insurgents in Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe. There was two different groups of insurgents fighting over Rhodesia. One was backed by the Soviet Union, and the other one was backed by China. And the ones who won were the ones backed by China. And I find that Mugabe Mugabe won that war, and Mugabe has described himself in an interview as a Marxist-Leninist of Maoist thought. And then the Soviet Union stopped supporting him and exclusively supported his competitor, ZAPU, while China supported Mugabe in the ZANU. I believe it is critical for the South African landowners to understand that it may not be elements of the South African government, and I believe that's a better description of the board, is that there are elements of this Marxist South African government who are willing to do whatever it takes to seize their property. I believe it's important to understand that those elements of the South African Marxist government may be backed by international communist players. I plan on following this video up with another one on what landowners can do about the jammers. This one just tried to explain some situations and understanding where these jammers are coming from. Until then, I really recommend people, in the sound of my voice, look at the incredible amount of work done at Radio Free Redoubt and Amron and the Charles Carroll Society and the Patriot Darknet. If you enjoy the show, please share, subscribe, and like the show. Rate us on your favorite platform. As Twitter and YouTubes are constantly purging political thought that they don't like, you can also follow me on minds.com at mralexbarron.com. If you want Western civilization, Orthodox Christianity, and individual liberty to survive, you are personally responsible with finding some way to demonstrate your non-compliance to this Marxist post-Christian system. Every week, try to perform some small action of protest, self-reliance, and non-compliance. Viva Cristo Rey, Viva Cristo Rey, Viva Cristo Rey, y the Virgin of Guadalupe.